Next, let's talk about international treaties. The Blue Book has a list of official treaty sources. In this case, we have the UN Treaty Series, the League of Nations Treaty Series, and then some regional specific treaty series. Unlike when it comes to official publications of US treaties, these first couple official treaty publications where you can find most major multilateral treaties are available for free online, and that's going to be at treaties.un.org. In our first lecture dealing with treaties, I mistakenly tried to find the Berne Agreement using one of these treaties. The problem was that the Berne Agreement was from 1886, so treaties.un.org has the League of Nations Treaty Series, it has the United Nations Treaty Series, but that's only from 1920 to present. You have to be a little bit more creative if you're looking for a historical treaty. I have a bit more to say about these resources that are available at treaties.un.org. Again, the best place to look for multilateral treaties in particular, but also for a lot of bilateral treaties. A lot of US treaties are also included on treaties.un.org, just not official versions of US treaties. So let's pull up treaties.un.org again to highlight some features that I may have skimmed over in our first class on treaties. Here we are at treaties.un.org. If we wanted to look at the UN Treaty Series, again, that official publication of multilateral treaties, we can click through that here. They also have the League of Nations Treaty Series. Again, that's for some older treaties before the UN, but similar kind of portals. So let's say I want to find the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. I could go to Treaty, and then we can search by English title, and let's just say something, Rights of the Child. The search algorithm here is unforgiving, so you need to do precise language. Rather than writing a complete title, you might just write a part of it. Like rather than UN Convention on Rights of the Child, I'm just entering Rights of the Child here, and I'm adding that to my search criteria. And then let's select search. A lot of the time when you search for a treaty, you're not only going to find the original treaty text, you're going to find a bunch of like subsequent treaties that might have amended it or optional protocols to the Convention on Rights of the Child. If you're seeing multiple results and you're confused about which one is the one you're looking for, you might need to do a little bit of background research first. So, for example, I could check, okay, the registration date here is 1990, date of conclusion is 1989. Is this the treaty I'm looking for? Why don't I just Google it real quick? Convention on Rights of the Child. And I could look, okay, yeah, it was signed in 1989, so this is probably the treaty I'm looking for. When you pull up a treaty here, you get a lot of information. If we want to actually view this treaty as it appears in the official publication, the United Nations Treaty Series, we can click here. When you click here, though, it's going to take you to the first page of this treaty series. So again, this is like a series of books. And we've just been taken to the first page of the book that has this treaty in it. So you need to do a little bit of digging in order to figure out where exactly in this publication the treaty you're looking for is. Sometimes there are some shortcuts available. In this case, it looks like this website is indicating that the treaty we're looking for is on page 3 of this publication, so that shouldn't be too hard to find. If we scroll down a little bit, we start with the table of contents. So there's also, if we didn't have this information here indicating that it was on page 3, we could check the table of contents and see, okay, the Convention on Rights of the Child starts on page 3 of this whole volume. So let's go down to page 3. That's page 3 of the series, not page 3 of the PDF. But here we go. It looks like this is the start of the official treaty, and it starts in Arabic, and we have to actually scroll down a little bit to find the official text of this treaty in English. But this is what you'd be citing to in a paper. This is the authoritative version of this treaty, the most authoritative version. So why are we using this cumbersome version of a treaty? The purpose here is really to find the official version of this treaty for citation purposes. And it looks like here is the official English version. If we want to find a more readable version of this treaty, an unofficial version, we have a lot of other options. We could probably just find it through Google, right? So So here's possibly the text of the treaty that we're looking for. And we see that it's from the UN directly. So it's probably not too inaccurate. So you can always use an unofficial version of a treaty that you find on the open web. But then when you need to cite to a treaty, you can use this more comprehensive volume where the treaty was officially published. A lot of the time, this database can be useful for more obscure treaties that might not easily be accessible via the open web. It's also a useful resource to keep in mind for that. The UN Treaty Series also lists party status. So which countries are party to a treaty, which countries have ratified or signed a treaty, which ones have maybe issued some kind of declaration or reservation to a treaty. Let's find a declaration here. Okay, right, so it looks like Denmark has issued some declarations to this treaty. If we want to actually look at this declaration, we can click through, and it's going to take us again to a volume of the official UN Treaty Series. So all reservations and declarations, they're going to be published somewhere in an official UN Treaty Series. The issue here, again, is that it takes you to the first page of the treaty. So to actually find this reservation that's been mentioned by the UN Treaty Series, this communication concerning the reservations made by Qatar, we're going to have to try to find it as maybe somewhere in the table of contents or running a Control F search. What we could do as a shortcut, because this document is difficult to search, we could check out this treaty registration number indicated on every treaty result in the UN Treaty Series, because this is what the table of contents of the UN Treaty Series uses. So let's try Control F searching for that. And it looks like on page 435 of this document, we have our communication by Denmark. And here it is. Here is the communication by Denmark that we were looking for. So that's one way to find reservations and declarations. It's kind of a lot to deal with, kind of a pain. Sometimes it's the only way to find reservations and declarations for more obscure treaties, but there's also a way to view like this treaty status, the text of a treaty, and all the reservations and declarations using this treaties.un.org website. That's a little bit easier than the UN Treaty Series. And what I'm getting at here is this status of treaties option. So separate from the UN Treaty Series, there's this link to status of treaties. And this is a list of major treaties, and it has kind of more concisely conveys all the information that we were just looking at. So we can look for the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. There's an option to search this collection. I'm just going to browse by subject here. And let's look for Rights of the Child. Right there it is. So this is a much more organized list of results. So up here, we have a link to a copy of the text, a direct link to a copy of the text, rather than like this a big 500-page PDF. We're just taken straight to the treaty. Still starts in Arabic and Chinese, so we have to scroll down a bit to get to the English copy. But then there's also a link to that longer volume that we were just looking at, that 500-page volume that is technically the official version. The official volume that you're going to cite to if you're citing to this treaty. What this special status of treaties page also has, if you scroll down a little bit, is an easier to browse list of all reservations and declarations. So here's a declaration by Afghanistan. Here is a declaration by Algeria. This is an easier way to view reservations and declarations, and it's an easier way to get straight to the official text of a document. So why don't we start with the status of treaties? Why do I even talk about going to the UN Treaty Series tab? The reasoning is that the number of treaties that are available on this status of treaties page is much more limited. So it's like 600 treaties or something like that. Whereas you have thousands of treaties available via the UN Treaty Series. So you might want to start with the status of treaties page, and you can do something like searching by title. If you're dealing with one of these major multilateral treaties, but if you're dealing with bilateral treaties, or if you're dealing with maybe a little bit more obscure treaty than the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, you're going to want to try using the UN Treaty Series, which is much more comprehensive, if not more difficult to search. So that's how you can find official treaties. Again, you might want to use this if you're encountering an obscure treaty that you can't find via Google. Now, what about historical treaties like the Berne Convention that I talked about during class and erroneously tried to search for here? There are a few different options. There's no perfect place to find these obscure treaties, but one option is using Hide Online's World Treaty Library. We just looked at the US Treaty Library. They also have a comprehensive World Treaty Library that goes a little bit further beyond that. Let's find their World Treaty Library. And let's click through. So similar to how we did with the US treaties, we can go to the Major Treaties Collection tab and take a look at all of the different publications that are included in Hide Online's World Treaties Library. So there's like British and foreign state papers. There's Martin's treaties of these unofficial publications. There's the Pan American Union Treaty Series. When you are searching for a treaty on Hide Online's World Treaty Library, you're casting a much broader net, and you're searching a lot of these older historical treaties. So my recommendation for finding official or unofficial versions of these older treaties is to use Hide Online's World Treaty Library. And Hide Online also has pretty much all of the resources that we were just looking at on the UN website. So let's try finding that Berne Convention. Let's try searching for Berne, keyword Berne, and we'll do signing date 1886. This result here is the Berne Convention of 1886, that original Berne Convention that we were looking for.